everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Motorsport. We're your hosts, Daniel and Alex, and we have a very special guest this evening. Please welcome Justin Counihan. Mate, how are you?
Hi guys, yeah, going well, thanks. Just kind of recovering from Mount Gambier just over a week ago, getting back into normal life. Kind of had a bit of a mental break from the sport for a week or so, but yeah, starting to think about the next race at the Bend in about 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, no, I love it, mate. For those who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. We're a motorsport podcast, obviously, so be sure to hit the subscribe and like, and all the fun stuff. But Justin here, he races in the Adelaide University Australian HPV Super Series, which is pedal Prix racing. He had a pretty good start to his 2025 campaign, but we'll talk a bit more about that as we go on. But before we get underway, why don't you just tell the viewers about yourself and what you do outside of pedal Prix racing?
Yeah, so yeah, I guess pedal Prix's been a big part of my life for a long, long time. But outside of that, I studied industrial design at university, and I run a creative agency called Floodlight, which just by coincidence happens to be one of our team sponsors. And we're a creative agency that does like video production, advertising, design work for brands and companies around Australia. And then outside of that, live up in Blackwood with my partner and in a place up there, and yeah, ride into work every day and live a pretty normal life outside of the sport.
Not a bad spot there, Blackwood. I used to deliver there back in my Balfours days.
Makes
Not too
for
bad.
a tough commute home every day.
I was gonna
That's the
say
secret to my training.
pretty much up a cliff.
Yeah, that's how I get my training in, is basically just riding to work 3 or 4 days a week. That's the bulk of it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, speaking of riding, what actually got you into pedal Prix, and what early memories do you have with the tracks?
Yeah, so I'm definitely one of the more senior people in the team. I just turned 34, so I've been involved in the sport for a really long time. I think my first race was 2005, 2004, 2005. So I'd have been 13 or 14 at the time. And yeah, I was always interested in cycling, enjoyed cycling, and thought pedal Prix looked like a pretty fun thing to do. My primary school never did it. And then, yeah, when I had the opportunity to do it at high school, I jumped on it and was instantly pretty obsessed, to be honest. Like, it kind of ticked all the boxes for me and what I liked out of the sport. Like, I always loved the competition from cycling, but didn't like the solo nature of it. So I've always enjoyed team sports, and then I like racing more so than I like ball sports and traditional sports. So it pretty much ticked all the boxes for me. You get the challenge, the racing, working with a team to achieve a single goal, engineering and design, or pretty much it's like the amalgamation of all of my favorite things.
Yeah, speaking of engineering and design, obviously it's come a long way, like a huge amount. Jono was last time he spoke to us. He was talking about even changing setup to the trikes now, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But as a rider yourself and as a team owner now, how much has the series changed through your perspective, through like with bike manufacturing and the event atmosphere, just everything as a whole? How's it changed since you started?
Yeah, I think the atmosphere's always stayed consistent, and that's kind of what keeps people coming back. But certainly, if you look at the bikes from 20 years ago, they're so much more refined now. 20 years back, maybe there were 5 or 10 bikes that you look at and go, "Oh, that looks pretty quick." But nowadays, you'd have to say 95% plus of the field are looking professional composites. They're faster designs, and I think the sport has been this amazing step-by-step progression of evolution over time. Like, you can almost look year to year and see the evolution of the bikes getting faster and faster as people kind of hone in on those little details that make them quicker. I think it's a natural evolution. Like, you see it in all motorsport. When there's a set of rules, the design slowly hones in on like the more refined, like kind of ultimate outcome. And I think as the sport's gone on, the rules haven't changed heaps. So we've been able to kind of just slowly incrementally build towards like what is almost the most optimized design. So yeah, I think that's been a really interesting part of the sport, watching it evolve. I mean, when we started, we were in a heads out core flute bike, and in hindsight, it was, you know, uncomparable how much slower it would be compared to what we're riding today. It would be, yeah, it would be a 2/3 of the speed or something like that for the same power output. So it's come a long, long way since I was riding in high school.
Yeah, it was pretty much like a roll cage with a bunch of plastic on
Yeah,
it, really.
I used to call them like a bird cage on wheels. Some of them look like, you know, they're just a bunch of roll bars and 3 wheels, and they're probably a lot slower than a normal bicycle. But nowadays they're certainly a lot quicker than a standard road bike, especially on the flat.
Yeah, now the cool thing is now too with those bikes is school teams can actually get those trikes as well and actually be competitive. So they can actually get the sense of speed. I remember when I left my school, I think I had a big fat one, the Octane or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but they upgraded the moment I left to a Trump trikes, and I was like, "Come on, you're kidding me!"
Yeah, that's
But
unlucky.
yeah, but so last year and the year before that, you were part of UDSA's team. You were heavily involved in that, and you had some really, really good running throughout the years. First, what made you decide to leave that and create ELEMNT Racing? What was the experience like of finding your own trike? And obviously, you know, you've got the Platt Racing chassis. How was that whole process? How did that take place, and how did, I guess, pre-season happen for you?
Yeah. So yeah, we had an amazing couple of years with the uni team. You know, massive credit to Darcy for getting that off the ground. I think people have been trying to get a uni team off the ground for 10 years without any success. So Darcy had the right contacts and energy and all those things to bring the team together and get the funding from the uni and convince them it was a good idea. And by all accounts, it's been a really successful project and something that I really enjoyed. And certainly competing at that top level of the sport again has been fantastic. And I've met some amazing people through the uni team. Unfortunately, we're never quite able to get the win. We were 60 seconds off at Adelaide last year, so it was super, super close. But then this year, you know, Darcy had retired or taking a break, however you want to call it. And then a lot of the guys, like none of us were at uni anymore. So it felt like a pretty natural time to maybe start to drift away from that project. It felt like a bit of a line in the sand. Darcy had really driven it along, but actually credit to Matt Allen. He actually came to me and asked if I wanted to keep going. I was probably a bit on the fence, and he said, "Oh, I'm pretty keen to keep running a team." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll jump on board, and you know, we can do it together, and you know, share some of the costs and startup costs and that kind of thing to get it off the ground." So that's really the genesis of it. It wasn't anything crazy. It was really just a kind of natural change of the guard, new people coming in, and a bit of an opportunity to start something fresh, kind of simplify the operation a little bit. You know, the uni was fantastic, but there was a little bit of logistics and things that came with running it through the uni that maybe we were ready to move away from. So yeah, it's been a really good start.
Yeah, well, speaking of Darcy, you know, could we maybe see him in that bike sometime in the near future?
Well, I think he's traveling this year. I think he's got a well-deserved break from the sport. You know,
Yeah.
I had almost 10 years of not racing, so I can hardly blame him for wanting a bit of a break and to get overseas for a while. So I don't think it'll be, from what I've heard, I don't think it'll be this year, but who knows what happens in the future.
Yeah, because obviously, you know, when I spoke to him at Bridge, you know, he was retiring, but you could just tell he's not done. He's definitely not done. He'll come back.
The sport's a bit of a vortex. It tends to draw you back in. Like if you'd asked me in 2018 or 19 if I was going to be riding again, I would have laughed at you. I wasn't fit enough. I've just been out of that world for so long. But if you really enjoy it, you know, if you enjoy it, do it. And if you don't. It's as simple as that. I think it's one of those things. There's no financial gain out of it. There's nothing to be gained except the enjoyment of competition and trying to improve and those kinds of things. That's all that can keep you going with it.
Yeah, because I am the same with commentating. Like, I didn't think I'd leave 2018 with my school. I didn't think I'd ever come back. And then, 5-6 years later, I'm back as a commentator. It's pretty crazy. And I'm glad that that's happened as well, because I miss it so much. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's such a unique sport. It's almost unique to country Victoria and South Australia. I know there's obviously a series in Queensland and WA, but it's a unique sport. It's hard to explain to people what it is or why it's so interesting, but I think it does. I know from your guys' perspective, obviously it kind of has that crossover with motorsport, cycling. It has so many different kind of elements to it that kind of can be really interesting, especially once you understand it. And I think it's fantastic you guys are helping to, bring the sport into a bit more mainstream and explain some of the behind the scenes stuff for it. It's been fantastic to watch.
Yeah, definitely, because that's one of my goals. Now I've got the keys to the media account. That's my goal, is because the establishment is fantastic. What we've got already as a sport is fantastic, but we just need some more eyes on there. Because heaps of people either know about it, or heard about it through school but never really dived into it. And some actually are intrigued when you mention about it. Like, for example, we went to Port Gawler the other day to shake down one of the race cars, and Justin, actually, funny enough, he actually, he's about 40, something like that. He told me that he used to race in Pedal Prix at the car park that time back in the day, and it's just crazy, like, hearing, like, you meet new people and you're like, oh, no way. So no, it's really cool if we can. Yeah.
Tens of thousands of people that have crossed over with the sport through their schooling since the early 90s. And I think for me, it's about, trying to retain more of those people in the sport and grow it at every level, because I think the sport, it appeals at so many levels. The grassroots of it is all the schools, and they're probably the backbone and the most important part. Like, I think we like to think we're great because we're going around really quick, but without all the schools that are involved, the primary schools, middle schools, high schools, the sport's nothing without them. So they're really the most important part of this whole activity. But I think that's what's so unique, is that you can be on track in a safe environment with bikes of all different speeds and skill levels, and it's just such a unique activity in that way, in the way that it's this mass participation kind of racing sport.
Yeah, we all started through school, didn't we? A lot of us. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had that opportunity as well. I was one of those people that Daniel mentioned that are the outsiders learning about the sport still. So literally the track day we had at Vic Park the other week was my first time ever seeing them, let alone being in one, which is pretty cool. Obviously, you mentioned there's so many different, elements of the racing, and there's so many different ages and levels of fitness. But you guys have just come back from Mount Gambier, as you mentioned. New team, new bike, and you've won on debut. Tell us about the weekend. How was the weekend overall? Was it as smooth as it looked?
Yeah, I was nervous coming into the race, but I don't know. There was a confident. We knew that we were going to be quick-ish because we'd seen the numbers from training. Like, we've done a lot of laps at Victoria Park, and we knew this bike was fast. Like, we could see it in the numbers. Like, I was doing the times that our top riders were doing at Victoria Park, and then our top riders were getting KOMs when they're going out to train. So we knew the bike had speed. But the problem, anytime you race something for the first time, you find gremlins, and I knew that was going to happen. That's why, people going to us like, "Oh, we think you're going to go really well this weekend." I was like, "Yeah, we might, or we might just fall in an absolute pile because we find some issue that we haven't noticed in training before, because it's just always different when you're racing." So, yeah, we were excited, but also I was a little nervous inside that we were going to have problems. And the first 2 hours, we did have heaps of gremlins. We had issues with the wheels. We had a tire that punctured from rubbing on the canopy, but that was a progressive problem from another issue that happened with one of the wheel bolts coming loose. So we had lots of issues in the first couple of hours, but once we kind of sorted those, it was relatively smooth sailing after that. But we were kind of like 2 laps down at one point on Waddle, and you know, we were kind of having that chat to each other of, oh well, it's first race, you know, top 3 finish is pretty good, and then I don't know, Bowen got in the bike and was just flying and caught up, you know, 2+ laps on Waddle in one stint, which was pretty wild. And then we kind of looked at the rider order and looked at our team, and we were like, oh, we're kind of in this. And then once I got through my stint, because I am probably the slowest rider in the team, but I was able to match the Waddle guys, and then from there, we had 2 really strong people to finish. So it was like, oh wow, we might actually have this, pending anything horrible happening, like the horrendous rainstorm in the last 30 minutes of the race, which did happen. Scared the hell out of us, but Matt Allen finished up for us and did an amazing job. So kept it on 3 wheels and got us to the finish line.
Well, the funny thing is about the weather was on our radar. It wasn't going. That little bit of rain was it. That's why I kept saying on the commentating, like, yeah, that's all you see. And then literally one of my co-workers were like, are you sure you're not a weatherman? I'm like, yeah, thank God I'm not, because it started bucking down again. But
when I saw the rainbow, you could see the rainbow coming, and it was like, oh, that's rain. It's a beautiful rainbow, but there's definitely rain in that rainbow. So we had to do an emergency pit stop, and that's what really kind of got us a bit nervous. Like, Waddle were always going to pit 30 minutes to the end and put Reese back in, who's an unbelievably strong rider, and they effectively got a free pit stop on us because we had to come in to change the screen and put what we call like a Ned Kelly screen, which has kind of a hole in the front of it, because otherwise the bike just folds up terribly. Yeah,
it was really interesting because we had it was really interesting seeing how other teams, because they either had the whole thing taken off, or but you guys were quite clever with that. Alex, by the way, I know you want to say something, but Reese Harris, there's a little joke we go around the community. He's the world's fastest man. We like to call him.
Right.
I'm going to leave you with that.
He's a quick rider, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned the rain. Obviously, I wasn't there. What do you guys have to, and you guys and every other team, what changes do you make for the wet? Do you actually do anything different? Like, for example, in motorsport, you know, full tire change, wet weather tires. Obviously, that might not be the case for you guys. But what do you guys do when the rain comes?
Yeah, so it depends how much rain there is. The biggest issue is the fogging and the visibility. So we run vents in the front screens that blow air from the outside up onto the inside of the screen. So that's kind of the first line of defense. But if it gets heavy enough, basically you've got a really hot, sweaty rider on the inside and cold rain on the outside. Mm-hmm. So it's just a recipe for fog. Like, as soon as the cold rain hits the warm plastic, it just forms condensation on the inside of the screen. So we have like spare screens cut ready to go that have like a small slit in the front. Okay. And we were lucky enough to go to a wind tunnel last year and do some setup changes and things and kind of work out what the optimal size for that cutout is, and then kind of find a bit of a balance in terms of visibility to aerodynamic loss. And so we just swap the screen over. We basically have a couple of little bolts that we undo, and the new screen pops off and the new one goes in place. With the current design of canopy that we've got at the moment, like the fairing, you can actually swap the entire lid over, but we haven't got a spare lid at this early part of the season. But later in the year, we'll probably have a entire spare lid. So if it rains, we'll have a wet and a dry setup on our lids, which will speed up the process even more.
Yeah, wow. So it sounds like you guys are using a wind tunnel more than Aston Martin Formula 1 team have used their wind tunnels in the last 12 months. By the sounds of it, that's very impressive for
we were very lucky there's an amazing new wind tunnel built in South Australia, the Australian Centre for Sports Aerodynamics or something like that. It's part of the new South Australian Sports Institute. And I got in touch with them and played the uni card, and you know, they were really, really nice to us and got us in on a really good rate. And that was a fascinating kind of learning experience going in there
it's paid off.
Unfortunately, it was with the old design that we were using last year, but we still learnt so much about how the air flows around the bikes and what can be done.
Definitely
pretty crazy.
Yeah. We actually learned, so at 55 k's an hour, the bikes are half the aerodynamic drag of a team pursuit, like an Olympic team pursuit track cyclist. So they use half the amount of energy in terms of their aerodynamic drag. That doesn't include, mechanical drag, because it's probably slightly higher on a pedal bike because it's got 3 wheels and a really long drive train. But the aerodynamic drag is half that of a Olympic track pursuit cyclist. And they actually get more aerodynamic as they go faster as well. So the bike that we were in last year was in this amazing sweet spot, kind of between 50 and 60 k's an hour. The actual aerodynamic drag was lower at 50 to 60 than it was from 40 to 50. So they're made to go quick. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That's crazy. It just still bizarres me the fact that we're actually getting to wind tunnel testing now,
Yeah, it was cool.
which is really exciting. Really exciting. So after your fantastic start to the year, how's the year looking in terms of yourself and what your expectations are as a team?
Yeah, good. I think we've got a few more upgrades to come. We've been lucky enough to take on it. We've got a major sponsor like Carter's Asbestos Management, so they've kind of come on board, and we're able to, I guess, fund a few of our upgrades with the money from that. So I won't specify exactly what they are, but we've got a few things in the pipeline to, I guess, get a bit more speed out of the bike, pick off some of that low hanging fruit, and then I guess really it's just keeping momentum and trying to, it's a marathon, not a sprint, being fast across the whole series rather than just one single race. So we'll be out at training on Saturday. We've got a couple of the changes that we're testing. Everyone's just keeping up their training and looking after themselves, and that's about all you can do really. So we'll have 5 riders at the next race. We had 6 at Gambia, but next race is only a 6 hour. So Sam won't be with us at the next one. So, but yeah, it's still a really strong team, and should be a good squad. We should still be competitive. But Wattle are amazing. They're an amazing team. They run in really fast machinery. Like their bike has been kind of the gold standard in terms of speed for a long time. Everyone's known that. We're probably clawing to kind of get to their level. That's really what we're trying to do at the moment. So that's the plan, is to kind of make sure we're in even machinery and then try and kind of speed up from there.
Yeah, I think just having you guys, even though you're all been part of the sport for so long, just having a new team there to take on Bottle is really exciting and really really good for the sport, because it gets people talking. Because obviously coming into the weekend, even when you guys got off to a really good start, chasing your old team down the straight there, that was really cool to see. It was just you two and everyone's all back there, but. Obviously, the Pedal Prix series you race now is obviously South Australian. With they go to Bustleton as well. Can we see ELEMNT Racing in maybe in the Vic series or something like that by any chance this year?
There's a chance we maybe do one round, but we're really I guess the whole naming of ELEMNT was to try and keep things simple, like stripping things back to its core elements. And one of those things was to just focus on our main goals this year. And try and do anything that peripheral to making us faster was something that we wouldn't do. So we'll see. There's a chance we make it to one race if the momentum's there. I feel like the Victorians put in such an effort to come over to our races. I feel like we should try and make the effort to make it across to one of theirs. But the focus is definitely on the South Australian or the Adelaide Uni Super Series. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you mentioned all these different races that you guys do and the fact you've just won on debut with your brand new team. But I'm going to ask a bit of a silly question. Was that the highlight of your Pedal Prix career, or has there been something else in the past that's topped it?
No, that was it. I think, yeah, that's been the goal for 3 or 4 years to win. I've never won a race. I've only ever come second. We won the series when I was at high school. When I was in year 12 at high school, we won the overall series, but I don't think we ever won an individual round. So that's been a goal. It's been on my actual list of goals for 3 years now. So definitely a highlight, and to have it all come together was pretty special.
How about any scares or incidents that happened? That something maybe you've learnt along the way that would maybe some sort of advice that would lead to the next person you want to explain Pedelbury about?
Yeah, I think it's a sport of kind of just consistent persistence. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like so many things can go wrong. Like Murray Bridge 2022, I was in the bike at 7 a.m. We were second. A bike kind of just appeared out of nowhere, took a hard right into the side of me, and I crashed into a fence pole, and the whole race was over. So, some pretty bad stuff can happen, but if you kind of have faith that you can keep improving over time, then it's that's the most important thing, I think, is just consistency. Just get back up, learn from your mistakes, move on. That's probably the most important part, is just continue to move forward. Like, some really shitty stuff will happen because that's how racing works, but you just have to kind of dust yourself off and learn from your mistakes and move on.
Yeah, cool. And one final fun question: out of all the tracks you've raced at, what's got to be your favorite?
Mount Gambier is probably the most fun, and then Adelaide is kind of the home track. So it's a tough one between those two. But I think Mount Gambier is the most enjoyable circuit to ride on.
It definitely looks really cool, especially the final couple corners, the sweepers.
Yeah, it's good fun. Coming through those at 50, 60 k's an hour is a pretty good buzz.
Yeah, no wonder you were crapping yourself with the rain.
Yeah,
That
proper
wouldn't have been fun.
sliding at those speeds and ripping through tyre. I think we went through 7 or 8 tyres on Saturday.
Actually, in fairness, though, everyone did sensational with the tricky conditions. Like, there was only a couple rollovers as expected, but not as many as you would normally see if it was raining. So, and especially when it's the first race, whole heap of new people, like kids as well, they did fantastic. I think everyone deserves a pat on the back for that. But thanks for coming along. It was great to have you on for a chat here at LTM. Do you want to just shout out your social media, maybe highlight your racing team as well?
Yeah, for sure. So we've got an amazing team, and I probably didn't shout out to them enough. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the whole crew this year, like Griff and Matt Allen, Matt Greer, Bowen, Sam, Genevieve's been doing our catering, and Hayden's kind of been with us as well, doing a lot of photography. And I just want to thank all of them for what's been an incredible start to the year. In terms of social media, we've got ELEMNT Racing Inc. We're running it all through our Instagram, so that's our handle. And then also just another quick shout out to our naming rights sponsor, Carter's Asbestos Management and Floodlight. So I guess I'll finish on that one. But follow us on Instagram. We'll keep up updates on there with some videos and photos, and just keen for more people to get involved in the sport. If I can get anything out of this whole journey, it's to inspire more people to keep racing and enjoy it.
Yeah, love it, man. I appreciate you coming on. That's the whole point of this podcast as well, is to grow the community even more and get people interested in it. But thanks for that. I really appreciate you coming on. And I can't wait to catch up again at the Bend and see how you guys go again.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.